Welcome to Looking at Legal Stuff. Today we have an evidentiary hearing with a couple where Mama's been withholding the child for the last 4 months after an incident with Dad's girlfriend that she says caused her to fear for the child's safety. She wants Dad to have supervised visitation. Dad claims that incident never happened, and neither did most of the other things that Mom's accusing him of. He wants to go back to the week-on, week-off 50-50 schedule that they had been doing before Mom abruptly kept the child. Are there real concerns of safety and neglect in this case, or are these two very young, high-conflict parents just slinging petty insults at each other that the judge couldn't care less about? Let's find out.
All right, this is Kaylee Jane Berryman versus Jeremiah James Wymoff, and I have motions for temporary custody and child support filed, as well as a motion to adopt a temporary parenting plan. Both sides are seeking to adopt a temporary parenting plan, so we are ready to, either side wish to have the rule.
Yes, Your Honor.
Rule has been requested, so any witness other than the parties is to go outside of the courtroom and remain outside of the courtroom until you're called to testify. You're not to discuss the testimony of any witness with anyone else. Counsel will be under a continuing duty to ensure the rule is complied with. The monitors in the lobby out there are not on, are they?
Don't believe so.
Just make sure that that's not. Either side wish to make an opening statement.
Judge, I do. I wish to. Just want to make sure you're ready for me to. I didn't want to just launch it.
Monitors are off. You are good to go.
Judge, I represent Ms. Kaylee Berryman. The parties have been married and have a minor child. The parties separated, and and the husband immediately turned around and moved in with a girlfriend, Miss Corey Green. Visitations began where the minor child was having some visitations with the father, though the father really was not exercising his time with the child and leaving the child with the girlfriend. Shortly thereafter, the father came in laughing about the minor child playing with his girlfriend's nipple ring during a visitation, and visitation has stopped. Ms. Berryman has allowed for FaceTimes to occur. The husband has been...
Did I understand you to say the child was playing with the girlfriend's nipple ring?
Yes, while it was in her nipple, and he thought it was funny. The father recently lost his job at ACHEM. We've got the records to support the fact that he lied to his employer about where and when he was, stating that he had a court appearance in Michigan, that he had to be there, and he had a lawyer from Michigan send that information. And then he admitted to lying after they reached out to his attorney, and the attorney refused to substantiate where he was during that time period. He was earning $19.46 an hour at that job, but he was laid off for lying about that, and he got caught because his girlfriend posted on Facebook where they were and how they were having fun and what they were doing. The proof's going to show today that the father, Mr. Womhoff, shows that he is living in Plainville, Michigan on his Facebook account, and he has told the mother he's living in Clarksville, but to date refuses to give her an address. So it's just not a safe situation. Testimony is also going to be that he's an alcoholic, he's got hygiene issues. When he has taken the child to Michigan, he's brought her back with COVID both times. We're worried about him having visitation with the minor child because the minor child just simply isn't safe in his care and custody. What we're asking for under the parenting plan is that visitation be supervised at this time, and that child support be ordered, and that child support be ordered. He has never shared his bank account information, his pay, or any sign-on bonuses that he had with his employer during the marriage, and has failed to support this minor child even throughout the marriage. Parties have been separated for some time, and he still has provided little, if any, support for this minor child. Those are the things that we're asking for today, Your Honor.
Sanders?
Yes, Your Honor.
Or this is not an uncommon scenario where people are married and then suddenly they separate, and all of a sudden the person that they've been married to and enjoying a life with and had a child with is the absolute worst human being that has ever walked on God's green earth. That's exactly what we see here today. These parties were married in 2021, and they separated in May of 2022. So it's a relatively short-term marriage. They do have one minor child, and she is a little over a year old at this point in time. And Your Honor, the proof is going to show that when they separated in May of last year, the parties, as is common, came up with a schedule that was conducive to their schedules and was in the best interest of their child. And the proof would show that that was a week on and a week off schedule. It's kind of what they were doing. This is a small child. She's not in school or anything of that sort. Then for whatever reason, in approximately December of 2022, my client's visitations were absolutely terminated by his wife. And he has not seen his daughter in person since December of 2022. He has had some sporadic FaceTime visits, and he has requested multiple times of his wife to let him see his daughter. Any sort of visitation, what works for you, just tell us. And has repeatedly been met with, you won't see your daughter until after court. You're going to be served. You're not seeing your daughter until after court. When we were preparing to file for divorce at the same time that Ms. Duke's client filed, and they beat us here to file. And so when we received their pleadings, I told Ms. Duke that I was representing him, that we were about to file anyway, and that we would like to have some visitation pending a court hearing. Still no visitations at all. Your Honor, both of these parties have moved on to other relationships. That's not a secret to either one of these parties. Ms. Berryman has a boyfriend. Mr. Wamhoff has a girlfriend. Those things are not matters of secret.
Do I need to dismiss it and leave a marriage so that they can't mess up two other people's lives? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I would hope that the court wouldn't do that, simply because they have.
Chancellor Leach threatened to do. Actually, Chancellor Martin threatened that.
Well, you know, my client's primary interest. I mean, obviously he wants a divorce, and so does his wife. But more than that, even he wants to see his daughter. And he wants to see her on a schedule that was what the parties were exercising prior to Ms. Berryman's unreasonable decision to stop all visitations until the matter got before the court. Your Honor, this is a young little girl, and my client has essentially not seen her now for the last 25% of the time that she's been alive. So he's missed out on a lot of those things. He categorically and absolutely denies the ridiculous assertion regarding this nipple ring allegation. He absolutely denies that as untrue. He has a job. He's been voluntarily paying his wife child support since they've been separated. Whether it's enough or not enough, I don't know, but he has been voluntarily giving her money, which is more than a lot of the folks that we see coming in here, especially ones that are being denied all contact with their child. Your Honor, he lives with his mother in Clarksville, Tennessee. His wife, Miss Berryman, is residing in, I believe, Lyles, Tennessee now. So the parties both have a job to the best of my knowledge, and it would be kind of a standard job as far as that goes. They both work Monday through Friday. The schedule that the parties were following prior to the termination by Ms. Berryman of the visitation, obviously my client was working Monday through Friday. He's still working Monday through Friday. And And during the time that he was at work, his mother was essentially his babysitter because she works on the weekends and not during the week. So it worked out very well that this child got to be with a loved one, grandmother, during the week. And I say that because the paternal grandmother, who is his babysitter during his parenting time that we're proposing, is the same person that Ms. Berryman has proposed supervise his parenting time, which we feel is unnecessary, but I just bring it up to point out to say that Ms. Berryman apparently has no issue with her providing care for this child during his parenting time. So you will see, Your Honor, from the two competing parenting plans that are before the court, they are quite a few miles away from each other. Ms. Berryman is proposing that my client would have every other weekend from Friday at 6 to Sunday at 6, and that it would be supervised by his mother in her home. My client is proposing a schedule that we feel is more in line with what the parties were doing prior to the cessation of his visitation, which is kind of a 50% week on, week off schedule where neither parent is going significant time without seeing these children. And under any circumstances, we would ask the court to begin something immediately because, like I've said, he hasn't been permitted to see his daughter since December of last year.
All right, Ms. Duke, you're the moving party. You may call your first witness.
Yes, Your Honor, I call Ms. Kaylee Berryman.
You'll come forward, please, ma'am.
You solemnly swear.
Officer Fry, would you assist me? Duke, you may ask.
If you would, please state your full name for the record.
Kaylee Jane Berryman.
And Ms. Berryman, where do you currently reside?
I live in Niles, Tennessee.
And who resides there with you?
I have a roommate, and then it's him and his son.
And your roommate's relationship to you is what?
We're just friends from work. He has a girlfriend, and so.
And no prior bad acts or anything? Did you vet this person before you moved in with them?
I did.
Okay. And what is his name?
Seth Smith.
And you've got a minor child. If you would tell the court what the minor child's name is and date of birth.
Malin Rose Wamhoff, and then it's 12.
And when you had that minor child, was it a traumatic experience?
It was.
Can you tell the court a little bit about that?
Her shoulder got stuck, and so my OB had to force her out, and I ripped front to back.
And how many stitches did you end up having to have?
Over 120.
And when you returned home, was your husband there?
He was.
Okay, where were y'all living?
At my mom's.
Was he any help to you at home when you returned home?
Not really. Any care that I needed help with afterward for myself, my mom would buy those things and my mom would help me.
Did he help support you financially during that time?
No.
Okay. Tell me about his care for your daughter. Did you ask for help with your daughter?
I did.
And what was his response?
I was told to leave him the F alone.
When you were together prior to this May 2022 date, was he helpful with the child?
Not really. If she had already been fed, burped, and changed, then he told her, but that was it.
Has he provided you with excuses about changing her diaper?
Yes.
Was it disturbing to you what he said?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said it's just a slip of the finger and your life is ruined.
Was that his excuse for not changing her diaper?
That, and he just said that when she had a bowel movement, it just really grossed him out.
During the pendency of this child's infancy, has he done many diapers that you know of, changed many diapers that you know of?
I'm not sure. I know when she was real little, my mom and I did a lot of that. And then when we were doing the week on, week off, his mom was the one doing that.
And we're going to get to the week on, week off, but during the time period when you were living with your mother and he was living there also, did he absent himself from the residence regularly?
Yes, he did.
Okay. How often was he staying at the residence?
He was staying there most of the time, but every other weekend he'd go out of state.
Okay. Where was he going?
To Michigan.
Okay. Have you caught him in lies about his trips?
Yes, I have.
Tell the court a little bit about that.
He took my brother with him to one of his trips that I had asked him not to, because Malin needed diapers and wipes and everything, and my mom and dad were getting tired of financially supporting for those things, and I told him I didn't want him to go. So he got my brother to go with him and had told my mom and I that they'd be staying at a hotel. And they got back and Hunter said they slept in their car.
And during the course and scope of your marriage, has he continued to lie to you about things like that?
He would tell me that he didn't have any money, but then he'd turn around. I needed clothes after I had her. I didn't fit in any of my clothes. And my mom took me to the mall and spent about $200 getting me clothes. He came with us and spent $300 on clothes for him.
Prior to you seeing the subpoena from his employer, the return subpoena, did you know anything about his employment?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Tell the court specifically what you didn't know.
I didn't know his rate of pay. I knew it was weekly, but I didn't know how much he was making. I didn't know any account information. I didn't know that there had been any kind of written or verbal warnings. And I didn't know that he'd gotten as many points as he did.
And was he let go from that employer?
To my knowledge, all that I know about that was he was escorted out.
Escorted off the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, tell the court where you're currently working.
I work at Deltal Dixon. I'm a level 2 graphic ceramic tech.
And what is your rate of pay?
Right now, I'm making $21.32.
And what are your hours of employment?
Every week I'm at about 45 hours. This last week will be more than that. We had a person sick and another person was out, so I had to do mandatory overtime every day last week.
And if those positions are filled, do you get overtime?
I do. I get 45 hours.
Okay. Now, what is your schedule at work?
Well, it's Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 3:30 usually, and then I'm off Saturday and Sunday.
During this minor child's short life, who has taken care of making sure the child made it to her doctor's appointments and got her vaccinations?
I have.
Has he volunteered with you to do any of those things?
He did. There was one appointment that he has taken her to by himself, and that's because I was at work.
Okay. And out of how many appointments have you had that he's actually taken her to an appointment?
Just that one.
Okay.
He did come with me on another appointment, but I had brought her.
Now, you heard his counsel, state that he had provided you with child support. Since May of 2022, when was the first time he provided you with any support?
That July, he did send me $50 for diapers. And then,
So July of 2022, he gave you $50 for diapers.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when did he send you anything else?
For her first birthday party, he did send me $90. He had initially agreed to pay half of those costs, but I guess all he could give was $90, which is fine.
How much was her birthday party?
Just for the room and the playroom bracelets, it was $263, and then it was another $200 for the food and the decorations.
And he agreed to pay you half of that, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've only receipted $90 from that, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did he provide you with anything else?
Beginning of this month, he sent me $600, and he said that has him caught up in child support since I've had her full time since her birthday.
So he gave you $600 in March of 2023.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you asked him for his address in Clarksville?
No, not yet.
Okay. Has he provided you with an address in Clarksville for him?
He hasn't provided me with one, but he had told me he was at his mom's, and I already knew that address.
Has he been staying with his girlfriend, to your knowledge?
I don't know that he's moved in with her, but he does stay with her from time to time.
And on the weekends, where is he going regularly?
To his girlfriend's.
Okay. On the weekends when he goes out of town, where is he going?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know he's going to Michigan, but I don't know what he does.
Okay. Tell the court what his other profession is.
It's wrestling, like a WWE kind of wrestling.
Okay. And what is his stage name?
Jeremiah of Nazareth.
And during your marriage with him, did he spend the majority of his time working on his promotion for that?
Yes, he did.
Tell the court a little bit about your concerns about his alcoholism. Or about his alcohol use. I loosely said that.
Didn't really see him drink too often, but there were a couple times that he would just take a whole bottle of Jack Daniel and he'd just go sit out on my mom's front porch.
And would he finish the bottle?
I don't think he did, but I'm not entirely sure.
Did you see him drink to intoxication?
No.
Okay. Does he have any other issues regarding hygiene?
Those last few months we were together, he was having some body odor and like there were issues with doing laundry. But aside from that, no.
Okay. Was he not taking care of himself?
Not really.
When he took the minor child to Michigan, did the minor child come back sick both times?
The first time, yes. The second time, no. She didn't start to get sick until a week after they had been back. And then that first time that he brought her back, I took her to the emergency room by myself because he said he didn't want to go. He thought that it was just allergies.
And what was the result of that trip?
She was positive for COVID.
Okay. And was she running a high fever?
Mm-hmm.
During that time period, how often was he visiting with her?
During that time, before he would go to work, he'd visit with her, and then on the weekends,
And so prior to your separation, or even shortly after your separation, was there ever a time that he was splitting time with you, with her?
not really. When we had separated and I took her and I actually went to my grandmother's in McEwen, I had been keeping her full time, but I told him if he wanted to see her before work, and that was fine.
And did he ever lodge an objection with you at that time?
He did.
Okay, and what did he say?
He wanted to do week by week visitations.
And what was his reasoning behind doing week by week visitations?
That's what worked best for his wrestling schedule.
Did he ever mention to you that he didn't want to pay child support to you?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and what did he say to you?
The day that I sat down and told him I wanted a divorce, he said that it wasn't fair and he didn't want to pay child support.
Now, you guys were exercising a kind of a shared parenting schedule. Tell the court what that shared parenting schedule was and when you were actually exercising it.
So when we did the shared parenting schedule, that started in July, and he would have her for 1 week, and then I would have her for the next week, and our switch off day would always be on Sunday in the morning. And we did that up until her birthday, because he came in to her birthday and was making the comment about his girlfriend's nipple rings.
And what did he say about that?
He had said that he thought that it was funny that Malin took an interest in Corey's nipple rings and that she kept trying to pull on them. And
did he think that was funny?
he did.
During the time when he was exercising kind of equal time with you, was he the one exercising that time?
He would leave her with his mom.
And would he go out of town without her also?
Yes, he would.
Has he put wrestling ahead of your child?
Yes.
Has that always been the case?
Yes, it has.
When she came home sick and you had to take her to the emergency room, had he put wrestling before her health that weekend?
Yes, he did.
Are you asking the court to approve your permanent parenting plan that we proposed already?
Yes, I am.
Look this over and tell me if that's a copy of what you're asking.
It is.
Tell the court what that schedule looks like.
So it marks me as the primary residential parent. And then every other weekend, he would get her from Friday at 6 until Sunday at 6. And it would begin the day of the court order.
Would you have any Mr. Sanders in his opening said that you think he's the worst human being that ever existed. Is that the case?
I don't think that he's the worst human being that's ever existed. I just think that his priorities aren't in the right place.
Okay. And are you just wanting your daughter to be safe while in his care at this point?
Yes.
In time? Okay. What are your other safety concerns with him?
For a time at his mom's, and it was something she had said to me, they were housing an active heroin user. And she was paying for his treatment that he needed to not go into withdrawal.
And that was at the paternal grandmother's home where the heroin user was residing?
Yes.
Okay.
And then when he had showed up with her at the party, she was covered in French fries in a rear-facing seat. And
Say that again, in a what?
in a rear-facing car seat.
Okay.
She only had her two middle bottom teeth, and he and his girlfriend were in the front of the car. So that was just kind of concerning because she could have choked.
Was there music going
There was. The windows to his car were actually vibrating.
because of how loud it was?
Yeah.
Okay. And how loud it was, could you have heard your child choking on a French fry if,
No.
okay, and you witnessed that, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Yes.
It calls for complete speculation.
It does seem to me that's very more than, it would require speculation rather than her being able to actually testify about that. Sustain the objection.
When your child got out of the vehicle, could you hear your child when she called for you?
No.
And why could you not hear her when she called for you?
The music was loud.
Did you get, you're wanting to do an every other weekend schedule, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this the parenting schedule you're asking this court to approve?
Yes.
Are you willing to give him additional visitation as the two of you can agree and as things go better?
Yes, I am.
Your Honor, I'd submit that as the first marked exhibit.
All right. You can mark this exhibit 1.
When you have your child in a rear-facing car seat, even with your music down in your vehicle, would you give her anything to eat when you can't visually lay eyes on her?
No, ma'am.
And why is that?
Because she could choke.
Now, did something concerning happen during the night last night?
I received 2 FaceTime calls from him. The first one was at 2:46, and the next one was at 3:35.
Was that in the AM?
Yes,
Okay. Were you asleep at that time?
I was, and Malin was as well.
Okay. Do you know why he FaceTimed you?
I do not.
Has he mentioned it to you this morning?
No.
When you were together, did you give him opportunities to try to prove himself as a father for this child?
I did.
Okay. Did he ever do those things for you?
No.
Okay. And when you separated, did you give him another opportunity to be a father to this child?
I did.
Okay. And did he prove himself then?
No.
Okay. Are you concerned for the health and safety of your minor child when the child is with him alone?
I am, yes.
Now, the paternal grandmother, aside from the active heroin user in their home, is she a good person to supervise the visitations?
She is.
When you heard Mr. Sanders say that his client completely denies anything as to the nipple ring incident, were there witnesses there when that happened?
There were.
And has he gone a period of time without even asking for visitation?
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the court?
I don't think so.
Mr. Sanders, you may cross-examine.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Experiment, I want to talk with you about some of the things that you had to say during your testimony, okay?
Okay.
First of all, you're under oath. Do you understand what being under oath means?
Yes, I do.
What does that mean?
It means that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
And do you know what happens to people that testify untruthfully?
You're found in contempt.
And then what happens?
Jailed.
Okay. So You said that your roommate is a friend of yours named Seth Smith. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it's your testimony here today that there is not a sexual relationship with Mr. Smith.
That's correct.
Have you inappropriately texted with Mr. Smith videos of yourself?
Yes.
Okay. What sorts of videos have you sent Mr. Smith?
Twerking videos?
Twerking videos. That's you dancing provocatively?
Yes.
And what were you wearing?
Underwear, I believe.
And is that a type of video that you typically just send to a friend?
No, not usually.
Okay. Well, why did you send it to Mr. Smith?
He was nice to me and actually looked at me like I was a woman and not someone meant to take care of him. So he made me feel confident about myself.
And did he ask you to send this video?
I don't think so.
You just voluntarily sent it to him?
Yes, I did.
Are there other videos that you've sent him of yourself?
Yes.
Okay. How many other videos of yourself have you sent him?
About 2 or 3.
And what sorts of videos are those?
They're just twerking videos.
Of you and are you wearing underwear?
I believe so.
Are you sure or not?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But again, it's your testimony here today that this is a roommate. We're not sexual,
That's correct.
correct?
Yes.
You've never had any sexual contact with Mr. Smith?
No.
Okay. He has a girlfriend.
Yes.
Does his girlfriend know that you all share videos?
She does not. I sent those few, and then after that, we didn't do that anymore.
Has he sent you videos?
No.
Do you all, it's commonly referred to as sexting. Do you all participate in that, you and Mr. Smith?
No.
You don't send text of a sexual nature back and forth?
No.
So if those records are subpoenaed, there wouldn't be anything like that in those texts?
We used to, but we stopped.
Okay, when did you sext with Mr. Smith?
From the end of May until the beginning of July.
Of 2022?
Yes.
Was that about the time that you and Mr. Wamhoff separated?
Yes, it was.
Now, who is Colin Hudgens?
That is my boyfriend I started dating back in October.
That's who you date now?
Yes.
And where does he live?
He lives in Nashville. I can't remember the name of it. It's about an hour from here.
And do you spend the night with him sometimes?
Sometimes, yes, but I don't go to Nashville.
What do you mean? Where do you go to spend the night with him?
He'll come to see me.
He comes to your
Mom's.
house in Lyles?
Yes.
And stays? And your daughter is there?
Yes.
Now, I believe that I noticed in your proposed parenting plan that neither party would allow any person with whom they have a romantic or sexual relationship to be present while the parent is exercising residential time with the children. So you have voluntarily done what you're asking the court to not allow. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Now, your attorney, Ms. Duke, in her opening statement said that Mr. Wamhoff was an alcoholic. He had an issue with drinking. And then upon being asked about that assertion in your testimony, you said, and I wrote this down, that you didn't see him drinking too often.
No, I didn't.
You recall saying that?
Yes.
Okay. that you did recall him taking a bottle of Jack Daniels out onto your mother's porch and drinking, but that he did not drink until intoxication. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Duke also argued that Mr. Wamhoff had taken your daughter on 2 trips, and both times that your daughter had returned home with COVID-19. Do you recall that statement? That wasn't accurate, was it?
No.
Because when you were asked about that in your testimony, you said she took 2 trips. On the first trip, when she came back, approximately 1 week after she returned, she got sick, correct? With COVID-19, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're not a doctor, are you?
No, I'm not.
And you can't sit here today before this court and say whether or not your daughter contracted COVID-19 while she was with her father or during the week that she had returned home and was in your care, correct?
That's correct.
And the second trip, she did not come home with COVID-19, correct?
No, the first trip, when she came back, she was already having symptoms. She was coughing, she had a fever, and that was the time I took her to the emergency room. And they said that she was positive for COVID in the emergency room.
And the second trip she came back, she wasn't sick?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, around the time that you gave birth, I understand you had a difficult pregnancy. There were some health issues that you suffered following that birth. Were you working during
No,
that time period?
I wasn't.
Were you working while you were pregnant?
No, I wasn't.
Were you, and obviously you weren't working while you were recovering from that difficult pregnancy, correct?
That's correct.
Who was working in your household during that time period?
Jeremiah was.
Okay. And he was working, he was a full-time worker, correct?
That's correct.
Where was he working?
Bridgestone.
So he was the only one that was earning income in your household?
That's
Is
correct.
that accurate? So you said he didn't help and he wouldn't help. And isn't it true that he helped clean some of the wounds that you had as a result of the pregnancy? That he would help you clean those wounds?
My mom helped me with all of my pericare afterward.
He didn't help in any event in that?
He helped me get to the bathroom one time.
Okay.
And that was it.
Did you work at any point while y'all were married?
I did.
Where did you work?
We were up in Michigan. I worked at Home Depot.
And you all,
I left. I quit shortly after I found out I was pregnant because I was feeling just very nauseous. And then I started throwing up.
when did you all move to Tennessee?
Wasn't until late that May.
Of what year?
It would have been 2021.
Okay. So May of 2021, you moved to Tennessee. Have you worked, did you work while you were living in Tennessee prior to the separation?
I didn't start working until April of 2022.
Now, since you all have been separated, you have had access to your husband's debit card, is that correct?
On the Walmart app, yes. There was
Because I believe there was an
time.
occasion where you went to
If you
Walmart.
could let her finish, Judge.
I'm sorry, I thought she was finished.
Let the witness finish her answer, please.
I was trying to order groceries while I was at work to go and pick up when I got off. And I didn't realize that in the Walmart app, because he had been the last person to use it, it was his card information, and it did charge his card $168. And I did offer to pay that back, and he said that if I bought the divorce paperwork from Office Depot, then it was fine. He would just leave it be.
So you used his debit card to buy food that you and Kaylee ate, correct?
Malin, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, you're Kaylee, I apologize. Did your roommate and his child also eat some of that food?
No, he provides
Okay.
stuff for him and his kid.
Now, you would agree with me that initially after separation, you all kind of started doing a week-on, week-off schedule,
We did.
correct? And at that time, you apparently didn't have any issues about him taking care of your daughter, correct?
I didn't.
You wouldn't knowingly allow your daughter to go into the home and the care of someone for a week at a time that you thought was going to hurt your daughter, would you?
That's correct.
Or not someone that you wouldn't trust with your daughter, would you? You wouldn't do that.
That's true, but I also know that his mom is there.
And you have mentioned that about his mother's home, that there was some person there who was in some sort of recovery. When was that person there?
I believe over June.
June of last year?
Yes.
But you don't know if that person's there now?
I don't.
Now, your husband, he also does, it's a sort of wrestling, is that correct?
That is correct.
And it's not the wrestling that we see on TV, is it?
It's like the WWE wrestling, but it's not like a UFC.
It's smaller scale wrestling?
It is.
Okay. And that's something that he did while you all were married?
It is.
Okay. And when he travels to Michigan, is that where the wrestling typically occurs?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, you would agree with me that in December of 2022, around the time of your daughter's birthday, which is the 21st of December, I believe, is that accurate? Is that correct?
Her birthday's the 4th.
The 4th of December. Okay, my apologies. But around that time, there was a birthday party that was scheduled, correct?
That's correct.
Both of you knew about the party.
Yes.
He had contributed some money. You said it wasn't enough, but he had given you some money, correct?
That's correct.
And he and his girlfriend came to the party, correct?
Yes.
And has he seen his daughter in person since that day?
No, he has not.
In fact, you told his mother that we're not doing week on, week off anymore. You texted that to her, didn't you?
I did.
And since that time, and I'm happy to go through every one of these text messages with you if you would like, but he has repeatedly asked you to see his daughter, hasn't he?
He has on occasion, yes.
On occasion? Would you like to see all the text?
That's fine.
What do you tell him when he asks to see his daughter?
I think a couple times I said it's to be determined, and then there were a couple times I said it needed to wait until after we went to court.
Do you recall saying you won't see your daughter until after court? You recall that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How would you like it if you had not been allowed to see your daughter for, well, going on 4 months now?
I would have been upset.
Because your daughter is 16 months old? Is that
Yes,
right?
she is.
That's a fourth of her life that he's missed, right? How would you like it if you missed a fourth of your daughter's life?
I would be very upset.
So what's the real reason why you've not let your husband see his daughter since December? I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard a valid reason. What is a real reason?
He has made comments about taking her up to Michigan and leaving her with his family and coming back to get her stuff.
How many times has he taken her to Michigan?
Twice that I know of.
How many times has he returned her from Michigan?
Both times.
Okay. So why else hasn't he been allowed to see his daughter since December the 4th of 2022?
The comment about her getting to play with the girlfriend's nipple rings.
Is the real reason the relationship that he's in?
No, that
Is
doesn't.
that why he
That
hasn't?
doesn't bother me. But to let a child play with somebody else's nipple rings isn't. That's unsanitary. That's gross.
So because of that statement that you allege was made, not him, he shouldn't be able to see his daughter for 4 months.
I'm gonna ask that be stricken. He's just testified that you allege you made, however he said it, it was him testifying.
Question is argumentative, sustained, you could rephrase.
So your allegation is that he made a comment about his girlfriend's nipple ring, and that your daughter was playing with it, and that's not sanitary, that's not hygienic, and that you stopped the visitation after that statement, correct?
Yes, I did.
How long in your mind should someone go without seeing their child for making such a statement?
I'm not sure.
Is 4 months too long?
I don't want to keep her from me.
Well, why haven't you allowed him to see her?
I have to know she's safe.
Well, you haven't testified as to any circumstance or situation or time where she was with her father that she wasn't safe. Correct?
That is correct.
You talked about a rear-facing child seat in his car, as is not uncommon, correct? Rear-facing child seats, that's not abnormal.
Well, they're supposed to be rear-facing until they're 20 pounds.
Okay. So if he has a rear-facing child seat, he also has a mirror
He doesn't.
in the back seat. If he says he does, you would deny that, correct?
You could go out there and look right now. There's not one out there.
So at the time of the birthday party, it's your testimony that there wasn't a mirror?
There wasn't.
Where were you at the birthday party when they arrived?
I was inside. So they have two sets of doors. You have the ones that go into the building, and then you have the ones that are outside. I'm sorry. You have the ones that are outside, and I was inside those because it's windowed in.
So you were inside
Yes.
when they got there,
Yes.
and then they got out of the car and came in?
My mom went to greet them at the car.
Okay. So you said that you said I couldn't hear my daughter calling for me because of the music. That was your testimony, right?
Yes.
But you were inside the building.
Yes.
We're at the noon hour, we'll just go ahead and take a noon recess until 1:30 and then come back and you can resume your cross.
Okay, Your Honor.
Recess until 1:30.
All right.
All right, let's have Ms. Berryman come back to the stand, please. Go ahead, Mr. Sanders.
Ms. Berryman, who takes care of your daughter while you're working?
I take her to a babysitter.
And who is the babysitter?
Her name's Juanita Jackson. I've known her since 2018.
And is this a private sitter that you employ?
I mean, like I pay her $100 a week, but she does watch her daughter's kids as well.
And where does Miss Jackson reside?
She lives in Niles.
What is her address?
I don't have it memorized exactly.
Does your husband know that where your child stays?
No, he doesn't have that address.
Did he know that name before you just answered my question?
I think I had mentioned it was Dina's mom, but I'm not sure.
And you testified earlier that you make $21.32 per hour, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And you get about 45 hours a week.
Yes, sir.
Do you make more money for the hours after 40?
I do.
You make time and a half for anything over 40?
Yes, I do.
And does your daughter have health insurance?
She does.
Who carries the health insurance for your daughter?
I have it on there. I think he has it for her, and then she also still has TennCare because for a while she wasn't covered on his.
So both of you have her on your employer's policy,
Yes, sir.
and you think she's on TennCare?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been employed at Daltile?
I started there in April 25th, and I was there through a temp agency, so I didn't get hired on through Daltile until the 6th of September.
So have you worked at Daltile continuously
Yes, I have.
since April the 25th of 2022?
Yes, sir.
The videos that I asked you about earlier that you sent to your roommate, when did you send those videos?
I believe it was during the same week. I told him I wanted a divorce. I'm not entirely sure.
So the videos that you sent, was it the same day? Did that create an argument?
It did.
The videos?
It did.
Okay. December the 4th was your daughter's birthday, correct? And it was also the day of her party?
Yes, it
And I
was.
believe that was on a Sunday.
Mhm.
And your husband's week of visitation ended on that day, correct?
Yes, it did.
So you all met to exchange and have a birthday party for her on the 4th.
Yes, we did.
So you would have kept her that following week, right?
Yes.
And then under the schedule, the following Sunday would have been his next week, correct?
That's correct.
And do you recall on the 12th of December, he texted you and said, "When can I get my daughter?" You recall that?
Yes, I do.
And your answer was, "It's to be determined." Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And then he said, "I would like a definite answer," and you recall what you said?
I do not.
You recall saying, "I cannot give you one right now."
Yes, that's correct.
And then he responded and said, "So you won't let me have her?" And you said, "As of right now, no."
That's
You
correct.
recall that? And then on the 13th of December, the very next day, he said again, "When can I get my daughter?" And do you recall what you said?
I think I said it's to be determined.
It's to be determined. That's correct. And then there's some more text between you all trying to work things out, the schedule, but suffice to say, he did not see his daughter for the month of December, correct?
That's correct.
On the 22nd of December, he said, "When can I see Malin?" And you didn't respond to that, did you?
I did not.
Again, on Friday, the 23rd of December, he said, "When can I see my daughter?" And you did not respond to that text.
That's correct.
Did you get those texts?
I did.
Okay, you just ignored them.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then on December the 24th, Christmas Eve, he said, "Then when can I see my daughter in person?" And do you recall what you said?
I do not.
You said, "After we go to court and we have a new visitation schedule in place." But at that point, there had been nothing filed, correct?
That was correct.
Then on Sunday, January the 1st, your husband texted you and said, "It's been almost a month. When can I see my daughter in person?" And you didn't respond to that text, did you?
No, some of them I didn't respond to because I was at work.
And then Monday, January the 2nd, your husband texted and said, "Can you and I please meet somewhere this weekend so I can see her?" And you didn't respond to that text. Correct?
Judge,
Yes.
if he can give those to her to, if he's going to read from them, he's reading into the record, but she'll need to be able to verify those statements.
First of all, the way a document such as that, he can ask her if she remembers that conversation, and if she remembers what was said, and if she doesn't, then he can demonstrate that to her to refresh her memory, was the proper way of doing it. Right now, I would overrule the objection because he's reading her the questions, but if instead of reading her answers, you need to give her an opportunity to answer it.
Certainly, Your Honor. Do you recall a text from your husband on the January the 2nd of this year? Your husband said, "Can you and I please meet somewhere this weekend so that I can see her?" You recall that text?
I do.
And do you recall whether or not you responded to that text?
I do not.
May I approach, Your Honor? I want your attention right here. Notice the gray and the blue. There appears to be at least some sort of a conversation going. Is that the text that I'm asking that you received?
Yes.
And is there any response from you below that?
No, there's not.
You recall receiving a text on January the 4th from your husband asking, "When can I see my daughter?"
Yes.
Do you recall what your response was?
No, I don't.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Okay.
The text here on January the 4th, can you read that?
It says, "When can I see my daughter?"
And is there any response from you below that?
No, there's not.
Do you recall receiving that text?
I do.
Did you just ignore it?
I was advised that it would be best to not respond.
You got some legal advice to ignore it, ignore those requests?
No, just from my dad. I'd asked him about it, and he said it'd probably be best to not respond.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Do you have any other questions?
Just a few, Judge. Threatened to take the child to Michigan and leave her there with his family?
He did.
Okay. And was that some of your reluctance in allowing him to see the child?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what else caused you concern about him visiting with your child during that time period?
Judge, I'm going to object. That's kind of that question calls for some sort of a narrated response. Just a general question about what other concerns.
Question, the basis for your objection is that the form of the question is overly broad, or it calls for an overly broad narrative response. Just trying to figure out what objection, what,
Calls for a narrative.
any objection.
Tell the court what else Mr. Wamhoff had done that gave you an issue with him exercising visitation. Even if you've already said it, you're allowed to say it again.
I mean, really just not helping out financially with things that she needed was a big concern. His mom would actually complain about having to buy her things when it was supposed to be his time to have her. The back and forth from here to Michigan every other week was a big concern. And again, with almost bragging at her birthday party about Malin playing with his girlfriend's nipple piercings.
And when Mr. Sanders asked you earlier about the only income coming into the home was his, was that accurate?
No, so we were actually living with my mom and dad since October of 2021 up until he left in July, and they were making and bringing in income as well.
Okay. Was he paying for anything during that time period?
No, he was not.
Okay. So when Mr. Sanders suggested that his income was the only one coming into the home, it wasn't coming into the home for you, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Was it coming into the home for your daughter?
No.
During this time period, was Mr. Wamhoff going off to wrestling matches and spending money on hotels and spending money on his wrestling?
I know for sure he was spending it on wrestling. I don't know about hotels, though.
Okay. Did you ever see a dime of that money?
No, I didn't.
Mr. Sanders brought up issues with you not having a job when you were pregnant. And he didn't make an issue of it, but he asked you about it. Can you explain to the court what happened when you became pregnant?
So I ended up leaving my job at Home Depot because I started to throw up like uncontrollably all day, every day.
Were you diagnosed with a condition at that point?
I was taken to the ER and put on fluids where they told me that I had what's called hyperemesis. My OBGYN confirmed this when I went to see her when I got down here. And I was also told that I was not allowed to lift anything heavier than 10 pounds because she was worried about intrauterine growth restriction.
And at your job at Home Depot, would you have been required to lift more than 10 pounds?
Yes, I would have.
And at your job now, where you're employed at Tile, do you lift more than 10 pounds?
Yes, I do.
Now, during the course and scope of your separation, have you tried to include Mr. and I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly, Wamhoff, is that correct?
It is.
Okay. Did you try to include him in trips to the zoo and the child's birthday party? Did you invite him to those events?
I did.
Okay. And despite the fact that he didn't even pay for half of the birthday party, saying he would, did you still invite him to that event?
I did.
Okay. Subsequent to your separation, when you were having all the medical issues that you were having, did Mr. Wamhoff take you off of his insurance?
He did.
Okay. And did you go for a period of time without health insurance as a result?
About a month.
Regarding the debit card with Walmart incident, was that inadvertent that you spent that money?
Yes, I thought that it was my card information in there, and whenever I spend something, it gives me a notification that pops up on my phone because I go through Chime, and I didn't get the notification, and I went back through and checked and saw that it wasn't my card information in there, and I texted him, and I was like, hey, I can send you that money back. I'll just have to wait until I get paid.
And at that point, did he have any issue with the fact that you had used the Walmart card?
No, he said as long as I went and bought divorce paperwork, he didn't.
So he was doing it as a trade-off, not because you needed diapers or formula for your child.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the videos that Mr. Sanders has asked you about, was that just for a week period of time that those got sent?
It was for a couple weeks.
Okay. Had Mr. Wamhoff done anything in your marriage to you to make you feel insecure about yourself?
The one time that he had assisted me to the bathroom, after I'd had her, he had made a comment about it looking like ground beef. So it made me feel very insecure.
Okay. Did he make comments to you about how your clothes were fitting after the birth?
I got a couple comments about some pants and shirts, but when I'd asked about getting clothes, I was always told I don't have any money.
And in retrospect, do you regret the videos that you sent?
I do.
Do you recognize that now as some sort of attention seeking?
It was.
Now, with you and your roommate, that happened, when did that happen?
It was May of last year.
Okay. And since that time, nothing like that has happened with your roommate? You're strictly roommate?
That's correct. Well, when those were sent, he and I weren't roommates. We didn't become roommates until October.
And currently today, as you're here, are you just friends?
We are.
Now, Mr. Sanders made some issues with Corey Green, Mr. Wamhoff's girlfriend. Aside from the nipple piercings and your daughter being exposed to that, do you have any other issues with Miss Green?
I don't have any issues with her at all. She seems nice.
Okay. Are you jealous of her?
No.
I mean, did you allow her to attend your child's birthday party?
I did.
Okay. I believe that's all, Judge.
Sanders?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. I want to make sure I understand this correctly, the timeline. You all separated in May of last year, correct?
We did.
May of 2022. And around that same period of time, for a 2-week period at least, you were inappropriately texting with, what is his name?
Seth Smith.
With Seth Smith. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You sent him videos of yourself, various sexual things in those videos, and you all sexted, sent sex to each other, right?
Yes.
Okay. And since then, you have started a new relationship with Corey. I'm sorry, what's the boyfriend's name?
Colin.
Colin. And he spends the night at your house routinely, correct?
No, only on certain weekends.
Certain weekends.
He's a lineman, so he can't be up there all the time.
How many nights a week does he stay there with you?
No more than 2.
No more than 2. But he stays there in the home with you, in the home with Seth, your roommate, who is the same person that you previously sent the text videos to. Correct?
Yes, he's aware that I had done that.
And you and your husband had a 50-50 schedule that you all had been practicing up until December of this year, correct?
That's correct.
Objection outside the scope of cross, or outside the redirect.
Okay, Your Honor, I withdraw that. And then as to the trips to Michigan, are you saying that you have some fear that your husband's going to kidnap your daughter
Yes, I do.
and take her to Michigan and she'll never be brought back?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure I understand that correctly. He's taken her on 2 occasions, correct?
That I'm aware of.
And she's returned on 2 occasions, correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, one of those, your husband had to deal with, I think his father had passed away. He was finishing up some things for his father.
To my knowledge, she didn't go up with him for that week because I had said I didn't want her up there because everybody was dealing with the funeral. I felt that wouldn't be appropriate to have a small infant around.
You expressed that you didn't want her to go on that trip.
Yes.
That's all right.
Nothing.
Let me ask you, to make sure that I'm clear on this point, when you and he were having some sort of relationship as far as exchanging the child back and forth, that stopped in December. And I just want you to tell me the reasons why you stopped that visitation and the reasons why you wouldn't. I mean, it's been asked questions. I just want you to list for me the reasons why you stopped letting him see this child.
I just felt like with the way that he showed up and how she was when he got there with her at the party, had food all over her, and then laughing about the thing with the girlfriend, I just felt that it wouldn't be safe for her to go back.
Okay.
I felt like he was just kind of disregarding her safety with giving her food.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay. You understand that one of the things I have to do today is to determine the parenting schedule. He hasn't seen the child since December. This is the April 4th. That's a little over 3 months, right at it. So if I give him this child and tell him to keep the child with him for 3 months without letting you see the child, would that be fair?
In time that he'd have her, yes.
Do you think it would be okay for him to have the child for 3 months and you not see her?
No.
Step down.
May I do one follow-up?
I'm sorry.
May I do one follow-up to your questions?
Did he threaten to remove the child to Michigan? You were afraid he was going to do that prior to you being able to get in court?
Yes.
Is that the reason why you said, let's wait until court?
Yes.
And had he blocked you on Facebook and his girlfriend blocked you on Facebook from having communications?
They did. He had also, he said he had a cell phone issue, but there were multiple times I tried to text him updates on Malin, and my messages weren't going through.
Okay, so had he blocked you on his cell phone also at times?
Yes.
Okay, so some of these times where it's showing up on these text messages that you didn't respond to him, were there times that you responded and it wouldn't go through?
With those ones, no.
Okay. That's all, Judge.
Sanders, anything further? Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Let me hear from him. I think I'd rather hear from the parties since we have a full docket.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll call my client, Mr. Wamoff.
Step up, please.
Please state your name for the court.
Jeremiah James Wamhoff.
And Mr. Wamoff, where do you currently reside?
I reside at 96 Airport Road in Clarksville, Tennessee.
And with whom do you reside?
I reside with my mother, my stepfather, and my girlfriend.
Okay. And your girlfriend is the
Correct.
lady that your wife has testified about, correct?
Correct.
What is her name?
Corey Nicole Green.
Okay. And are you employed?
Yes.
Where are you employed?
A.O. Smith. It's the plant over in Ashland City.
And are you paid by the hour?
I am.
And what is your hourly rate of pay?
$20.48 an hour.
Do you receive 40 hours a week?
I received 45.
45. And how are you paid for hours above 40?
Anything above 40 hours, I get time and a half.
And do you rely on those 5 hours extra? Do you typically get that?
Every shift is 9 hours. Like it's set in stone.
So are you guaranteed 40?
Yeah, I'm guaranteed to 45.
Okay. And how long have you worked there?
Almost 2 months, I want to say. Not quite, like a month and a half.
And do you have health insurance?
I do. Started on the first day.
And do you cover yourself and your daughter on that plan?
I do.
What about your wife? Is she on your health plan?
No.
Now let's go back in time a little bit to May of last year. Is that when you all separated?
Yes.
And from your viewpoint, why did you all separate?
So she had said something about a wrestling trip I took in April. I did take a trip in April. It was the first time hearing that she was against it. She actually made me a shirt to use to wrestle that weekend. When I got back, I sensed something was off. I'd leaned in for a kiss and she pulled away. I asked her if we could go talk about it. And she told me, I do not want you wrestling anymore. And so that was it. I canceled all of the rest of my bookings for the rest of the year. My schedule was clean. I wasn't going nowhere anymore. And then I thought that was it. And then Wednesday morning, May 4th of 2022, last year, yeah. That night it was warm, so I took me and Malin went down to the couch because it was warm in the room. I woke up that morning and Kaylee was standing over top of me. Hey, we need to go talk. We stepped out to the porch and she said, I want a divorce. And at the time she's like, I also want full custody. I responded, well, I took my ring off and set it down. I was crying obviously because it was out of nowhere to me. I said that I was not okay with her having full custody, but I do not recall any conversation of child support that day.
And from there, you all separated shortly thereafter?
So we lived together for a few weeks following that. At some point, her mom and I both contracted COVID. And at that point, she took Malin to live with her grandmother in McEwen, I think it is. And she stayed there until, my daughter stayed there with her until Kaylee's mom and I were both cleared of COVID, at which point we went and got Malin, and then Kaylee and I started a schedule based on her work schedule at the time, which was 2 on, 3 off, 3 on, and so on and so forth.
So was that sort of a 50-50 shared time, that schedule?
Yes, it was a 50-50 shared schedule because she was working, so 1 week she would work Monday, Tuesday, have Wednesday, Thursday off, and work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the next week would be the opposite. So on the days that she was working, I would have Malin, and the day she was off, she would have her.
And do you recall how long you all followed that schedule?
We followed that schedule. So my dad died on June 25th, and we had an argument the Wednesday before, in which she had threatened, she had told me she was just going to take Malin full time. My dad died that Friday, and when she came to, because I had called her, because that's who my person was at the time, like, that's the first thing I thought was to call Kaylee. She came to the house, and she pretty much told me, hey, understand, we'll go 50-50 week by week from here on out. And I guess it was to be nice, which I appreciate, because I love seeing my daughter, but, so from June 25th until December 4th is when we went to the week by week.
And where did you all meet to exchange your daughter?
Starting off, we were doing it at her mom's because I had good rapport with the parents and the rest of her family. We did once at the, I don't know the actual name of it, but it's the Amish store in Charlotte. We did that once or twice. She had stopped by my mom's once or twice.
And did you all do that up until December the 4th of last year?
We did.
And did it stop after December the 4th?
Yes.
Has your wife indicated to you any reason why she was putting a complete stop to your visitation?
So it had changed a few times. She told my mom it's because I was, the way I lived my life was inconsistent, and that I was too flighty, my plans and whatnot. And then it came out her mother had told my mom that
Objection as to anything her mother told his mother.
Staying, that would be hearsay.
Sorry.
Okay, so, and It's been testified to, but I'd like for you to confirm, have you physically laid eyes on your daughter in person since December the 4th of last year?
No, I have not.
Have you attempted through text and other ways to
Yes,
see
several
her?
times. Several times.
I'm going to run through some of the things that your wife testified to, or at least her attorney argued in the opening as to what their issues with you are.
Okay.
They said that you are an alcoholic and that you have a drinking problem. Do you recall that?
I do recall that.
Do you have a drinking problem?
No.
Are you an alcoholic?
No.
Did you hear your wife say that she has not seen you drink to the point of intoxication?
I did.
Your wife testified that she is fearful that you're going to take your daughter to Michigan and not return with her. Have you ever threatened to do that?
No.
Have you taken your daughter to Michigan?
I have.
Was your wife aware of those trips?
Yes, both times.
And did you return your daughter both times?
Both times.
Did you hear me ask your wife who takes care of your daughter during the day right now for her?
Yes.
Did you know that person?
No, I did not. I knew her daughter, but I had never met the person who's watching.
Did you know that was the person keeping your daughter before today?
No, she had told me at one point that it was her mom, but I guess at some point that changed.
Okay. This incident at the birthday party where your wife testified about some inappropriate comments that were made, did you tell your wife anything of the sort?
Absolutely not.
So the conversation that she's referring to didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
And you heard her say that there were witnesses to that conversation, didn't you?
I heard.
But have you seen any witnesses today to corroborate that?
I haven't.
Now, we have filed with this court a parenting plan, which is what it is that you would ask the court to do. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, before I get to that, let me back up one other issue real fast. Where did you work before A.O. Smith?
I worked at Arkham. Arkham America, yes.
And there was either testimony or argument that you were let out? Were you let out of there?
No, I quit. I walked out.
And why did you quit that employment?
So part of what they were saying was true. I was about to be let go, but I had caught wind before that, and I'm like, I was under the, I'm like, why stay if I already know I'm going to get fired? Might as well get ahead of it and try looking for something else. So that day I left and went to Wise and started looking for new jobs and through a temp agency.
How long were you between jobs?
I was off and on with a couple jobs for about a month and a half. But then I kept up. I was door dashing for a little bit to keep up with bills and whatnot.
And the job you have now, are you making more money than you were making at
Yes.
Arkham?
Yes.
Now, you have proposed a schedule to this court, is that correct?
I have.
And do you feel that your schedule is in your daughter's best interest?
I do.
Tell the court in broad terms what your proposed schedule is.
My proposed schedule is exactly 50-50. I think it's 182.5 days each, split holidays.
And why do you feel like that's in your daughter's best interest?
She's grown up the last 24% of her life without her dad. I don't think she needs to do that anymore. I grew up with only a weekend dad, and I ended up resenting him for it. It's having both parents in your life is good for people.
Now, you work full-time, correct?
I do.
Your wife works full-time.
She does.
She has a babysitter during her time that she utilizes, correct?
Correct.
You would likewise have to have someone, wouldn't you?
I do.
So who is it that you would use, or who have you used in the past when you all were doing a week on, week off?
I use my mother, Brandy Blodgett.
Okay. And if you would, tell the court a little bit about your mother's schedule.
So my mom is a hospice nurse. She works the weekends, so Monday through Friday she is off. Saturday and Sunday she is on call, so she is throughout. She's always going seeing patients. She sees easily 20 patients a weekend. She's not really home.
And is your mother the one that you utilized when you had her?
Yes.
When you had your daughter? Okay. Do you abandon or leave your daughter in your mother's care while she's with you?
The only time my daughter is with just my mother is when I'm working.
Do you love your daughter?
Very much so.
Have you missed seeing her these last several months?
It's felt like a part of me is missing. Like,
have you regularly tried to reach
Yes.
out to your wife and text and things?
Yeah, so I try to FaceTime every day. It's not always feasible because life, but a majority of the days I'm FaceTiming, I'm texting something. I try to FaceTime at least 3 times a day though, or like attempt.
Have there been times when you all were getting along better that you actually had her more than you were supposed to?
Yeah, from the time my dad died to the time all of this started, everything seemed pretty good. If she got sick, I would take Malin extra days. She gave me Malin over Thanksgiving weekend just because. So I had Malin extra all the time. I did the math, and before all this started, from the time my dad died to the time of December 4th, I had her roughly about 60% of the time.
Now, this wrestling thing that's been testified to, is this some sort of an occupation or is it a hobby? I mean, how do you categorize it?
So, professional wrestling is what I always wanted to do as a kid. I put a lot of money into training it before Kaylee and I started dating. I spent $1,500 to go train. The end goal is to eventually pay all of my bills with it, but in the meantime, you could say it's a hobby, but the end goal is to make it a career.
So you mentioned that when your wife brought it up, you canceled everything throughout the rest of
Objection to leading. I've let it go on for a little while just to get it done with. But
I ain't no leader with it.
Did you cancel last year's bookings at the request of your wife?
I did.
Okay. Did you wrestle any more last year?
After she had asked for the divorce, I started picking back bookings because I felt there was no reason to not.
And what about this year? Have you wrestled this year?
I have once this year, here in Tennessee. It was Centerville last Saturday.
And if you are gone out of town for wrestling or something and not available, what is it that you would propose for your daughter?
Well, so Kaylee told you guys that I took Malin out with me to wrestle, and when the 2 times that I left with Malin, that is true. She stayed with my brother because my brother lives in Michigan. So it's not like I was just letting her hang out in the locker room with some random strangers. She was with her uncle, who loves her very much. Usually my mom will go with me to shows, if she's available. My stepdad will go to shows. She's always got somebody with us.
Do you have more shows lined up this year?
Not yet.
Nothing more on the books?
Nothing on the books.
Okay. And have you sent your wife money since you all separated?
I have.
And how do you typically send that money?
We usually send it through Cash App. When we first separated, we were sending each other $5, $10, $20, $50 every now and then. for gas, formula, whatever, what have you. And that was usually through cash because we were living together, like actual like physical cash. Since then, we send each other money through Cash App because it's simple and easy.
Now, your wife made the allegation that after her pregnancy, you made some sort of inappropriate comments about her body or the way it looked or things like that. Did you do that?
No.
She also testified that you didn't really help out in any way with your daughter after the birth. Is that accurate?
No.
Have you helped out?
Of course I have.
Did you help out after your daughter's birth?
I did.
I believe that's all at this time, Your Honor.
Sir, with regard to changing your daughter's diaper, you recall saying all it takes is one slip of a finger and your life is ruined. You recall saying that to your wife, don't you?
No, that was not me.
Okay. Who said it then?
That was my deceased father because he knew a bunch of people who were not good people, and he was always worried that he would accidentally
So you agree with me that that was said, but that you just weren't the one that said it?
Correct. I was not the one who said it.
So if her mother testifies that you did in fact say that, that would be inaccurate?
She would be lying, yes.
Okay. And you understand that her mother is here to testify today?
I do.
Okay, and that she's been witness to the incidents regarding the nipple piercings and everything else, correct? She was at the birthday party?
Yeah, except for that didn't
Okay.
happen.
And your girlfriend has nipple piercings, doesn't she?
That is correct.
Okay, please explain to me how your wife would know that she had nipple piercings unless you had made those comments to her.
Because we had arrived at Diane's house one day and we were talking about piercings.
Okay, and so that's the only way that she would
That is
have
the
known
only
that your significant other had piercings.
Correct.
Okay, and you've been with your significant other since April of 2022, correct?
Wrong.
Okay, and you immediately moved in with her,
Wrong.
moved her into your mother's home.
No.
Okay, how long have y'all been living together?
She moved in with me and my mother back in January.
Okay, and is there? Okay, but no doubt she has nipple piercings.
Correct.
Okay, and you've threatened your wife that you would remove your child to Michigan and not return, that you would return to get her things, but that you would not return with the child.
Absolutely not.
And that's your statement under oath.
Under
You
oath.
understand, sir, that you're under oath.
Yes.
And you and your girlfriend both blocked Miss Berryman on social media, correct?
For a time we did, but she is unblocked.
And the two of you blocked her on your texting, is that correct?
No. So the time she is referring to, I had forgotten to pay my bill. And then after all that had been sorted out, I had given her Corey's number as an additional, hey, if you cannot reach me, this is another way to reach me.
And you canceled her health insurance back in October when she was still recovering from this, is that correct?
I canceled her insurance after we had separated, and I didn't know she was recovering from anything.
Okay, well, she was recovering from everything that had happened with your child still. She was still having routine appointments with the doctor.
I was not aware that she did not keep me updated on anything.
Because you weren't helping out with her recovery, were you, sir?
I was.
Okay. And you did, in fact, say that her private area looked like ground beef.
That is inaccurate.
Have y'all ever shared a joint checking account?
No.
Okay, and you've never given her information to your account, have you?
I have, actually.
Okay. When did you do that, sir?
When we first got together,
Okay.
it would have been, we got married in February of 21, I believe. So that
Tell
would
me
have been
one thing you bought when you two were living under her parents' roof. One thing.
I bought the bed frame, I bought the dresser, I bought Malin's formula, I bought her diapers
Okay, on what occasion did you buy Malin's formula?
several times.
And you guys lived under that roof for 6 months?
Off and on, we moved to Tennessee. We lived with my mother, then we lived with her mother, then we lived with my mother, and then her mother again, usually due to differences between her and either of those parents.
And you agree with me that you would not purchase her clothing, but went to the mall and purchased yourself $300 worth of things?
That is not true.
So you're saying she's made up all of this, even though she's admitted to these videos, she's admitted to things that are difficult to admit before a court, but she's making up everything else about you?
When we went to the mall, I bought her clothes, I bought me clothes, I bought our daughter clothes, I bought books. If she knows that I've seen the videos, she knows that I have a copy of the video.
She didn't try to hide those from you, did she?
Yes, she did actually. The only reason I found out about the videos is because I was going through her Apple Watch because I was curious.
Okay. When she asked,
In fact, when I asked her about the videos, she denied it until I showed her Apple Watch.
okay, do you have permission to be on her Apple Watch?
I did
Oh, she gave you permission?
at the time.
Oh, okay. And when she asked you for help using the bathroom and getting her to the bathroom, you said F you.
Absolutely
Or
not.
F off, I'm sorry, F off.
Absolutely not.
So
In
if her
fact,
mom testified to that, that'd be inaccurate.
that would be inaccurate. In fact, I vividly remember a conversation between Ms. Berryman and I where we were talking about the temperature of the water for her care.
You don't have any problem with the caregiver she's chosen, do you?
I have no idea who this woman is. I have no problem with her.
Okay. And she's continued to include you in the birthday parties, even though you didn't pay for half of it, correct?
I didn't know about the food thing until we got here today. As far as I was concerned, I did pay half of it.
You thought $90 was half of what a birthday would cost?
She, as far as I remember it, she had only told me it was going to be $180. I did not realize that the food was not included. This is my first child. I've never thrown a birthday party before. I don't do birthdays for myself.
And you agree that you FaceTimed her in the middle of the night at 2:30 and at 3:30 this morning?
I did. I can actually tell you why. So I was going through, because I have a call log of all the times I FaceTimed her trying to get a hold of my daughter. I was going through and screenshotting those, and I accidentally tapped on her name when I was doing that, and which activated the call. That happened twice.
Now, Mr. Sanders didn't ask you about this, but you got caught lying at your job, correct? You lied to them about where you were and why you were going somewhere.
I did.
Okay. And you got called on the carpet about an email that was sent by your alleged attorney, Mr. Cook. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you had somebody send that email on your behalf, acting as if they were your attorney, saying you had to be in court on 2 different occasions, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, you weren't in court on those dates. You were at a concert, at a Jelly Roll concert that your mother purchased you tickets for. Is that correct?
Correct.
Who purchased the hotel room for you that day?
There was no hotel room that day.
I didn't know there was such a person as Jelly Roll until.
There is, and actually he won a lot of awards this last week.
Didn't let me finish until I watched the CMT awards, and there was this individual named Jelly Roll up there. That was the first and only time I'd ever even heard of it. So at least I'm current enough to know who that is.
He racked up a lot of awards.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption.
As I was saying, there was no hotel room that night.
Where did you stay, sir? You were
we-
in Michigan, correct?
We did go to Michigan right after that concert.
Okay. Oh, so you left Tennessee and went to Michigan. You saw Jelly Roll in Tennessee?
Correct.
Okay. But you had told your employer that you were going to be in Michigan in court and you couldn't be at work.
I did.
Okay. So you lied to them.
I did.
Okay. So how do you expect this court to believe that you wouldn't lie to them about the things that your wife has said about you today?
I guess I could see why they would think I would lie.
You're not being truthful today, are you, sir?
I am being truthful
Okay.
today.
Who is Louis Cook?
Louis Cook is my attorney.
Okay. And is his email address lcook@whiteandcarlson.com?
It is.
Did you tell him to send an email on your behalf that you would be in Michigan on the 18th of November and the 9th of December?
I did.
Okay. And why did he send that if you weren't going to be in court on those dates?
I guess it's goodwill. I don't know.
So
sure.
he lied on your behalf?
I guess you could
Okay.
say that.
And you allowed him to perpetrate a fraud on someone else?
I guess you could say that.
Okay. And then, Judge, if I may approach, I've shown Mr. Sanders these records.
I have a question, actually.
You don't need to ask a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, so, keep turning. Is that the email, I'm sorry, keep turning one more. Is that the screenshot of you at the Jelly Roll concert and what your boss found about you?
It is.
Okay, and that's how you got caught, is that correct?
It is.
Had you planned on being honest with them about where you had been, had you not gotten caught?
No.
Okay. And were you about to be terminated as a result of lying to your employer about where you're going to be?
Possibly. I have no way to tell you for sure.
Where were you going to be on the 9th day of December that you asked to be out on the 9th day of December?
Oh, I was going to be here.
You're going to be there. Where were you going to be on the 18th day of November?
I couldn't recall.
Okay.
Possibly Michigan.
And you're telling me that you were so concerned about seeing your daughter on the 9th day of December that you went to a Jelly Roll concert and then proceeded to go to Michigan afterwards, correct? Yes or no?
I had planned this before all of that had happened.
Judge, this is a accurate copy of your employment record. Did you have a chance to look through it with your attorney?
I have a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Judge, I'd submit this is the next one.
Your Honor, for the record, I would like to lodge an objection. I've
There you go.
perused those records very, very briefly. There's a lot of handwritten notes in there from other individuals, and so there's almost hearsay documents within the business records themselves. And I guess my objection would be lodged on that basis that it's also a relevancy issue. He quit his job. We've conceded that. He says he's lied to his employer. We've conceded that. And beyond that, I feel like there's hearsay documents within those records, and it's not relevant to this proceeding.
This is assigned, they're kept within the normal course and scope of business. I can't help if something's written on. I didn't write on it. This is what was received.
Normally on business records, you would have to have an affidavit of the custodian of those records,
There's an affidavit right there.
and that would be admissible. Mark this exhibit 2. Overrule your objection, basically.
Now, when you said you made payments back and forth from the date of your separation, have you given her any more than what she gave you credit for when she was on direct testimony?
Yeah, she said I only gave her $600 and then $90 for the party.
And then $50 in July of 2022.
I don't recall her saying that, but I must have not heard.
Did you give her any more than $740?
I have, like I said before, Kaylee and I had frequently sent each other 50, 20, some odd bucks for gas or food or what have
Since
you.
your separation, since you two have not been living together.
Correct.
Because a minute ago you testified, sir, that you would be doing those things when you were together.
Yes, after she moved to her grandmother's, we continued to do so.
When you separated, have you given her any more than $740?
As I just said, after she separated and she went to live with her grandmother, we continued to send each other money.
Okay. How much did you give her other than the $740?
I couldn't give you an actual number.
100? 1,000?
Way less than 1,000. It's, I'd say close to 200 between, and she would send it
So
back.
at most, she would send it back to you?
I would send, she would borrow money from me, I would give it back. I would borrow money from her, she would give it, I would give it back,
So at most, outright, you've given her between $740 and $900 since May of 2022.
outright, yes.
And you know that she had just started work in April of 2022.
I did.
Now, you've earned some money from this wrestling, is that correct?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry for laughing.
Then what is your purpose in doing it?
Like I said, the purpose is to eventually get my name out there and eventually make a career out of it.
Okay. And you agree with me that you were regularly in Michigan when your child was young, when your child was less than 6 months old?
About once a month. So when
Once every other weekend, is that correct?
No. So when Malin was born, I stopped wrestling at Kaylee's behest until we had agreed upon March is when I would return. I wrestled 2 shows, and then Kaylee asked me to stop. So that she would have been about 4 months, about to be 5 months there. And then once May hit, when she was 5, I did 3 or 4 shows when she was under 6 months.
Now, you testified that she knew that you were taking the child to Michigan both times that you took the child to Michigan, but that's not accurate. When you picked the child up on the second Michigan trip, you waited to tell her until you were in Michigan to say you were in Michigan, correct?
False.
Okay.
I told her 4 days before we left.
On the second trip, that's
Right.
your testimony.
Yes. In fact, she had told me, I would like you to tell me before, like several weeks beforehand, instead of just a couple days before.
It's fair to say that she is uncomfortable with you taking this child to Michigan, isn't she?
I don't think it's fair, but that's how she feels.
Okay. But you understand, that's a fair statement, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you heard her describe you pulling up with your music blaring, with the child with french fries in her hands and on her body and everywhere in a rear-facing car seat at the birthday party.
She had fries underneath her because we had stopped. I had told Kaylee we were going to stop at Zaxby's and eat before we showed up to the party.
Okay.
So that is what we did, and then she had fries underneath her. The music was not extra loud. And I have a mirror in my car. At the time, I had a mirror in my car, so I could see Malin at all times.
Did you explain that to her?
She knew it. She had watched me put it in.
Sir, you've got a Facebook account, correct?
I do.
And you post lots of public pictures on Facebook, don't you?
I do.
And you only have one picture of your child on Facebook, is that correct?
That is not true.
Well, one that's accessible to the public, is that fair?
Yes.
And in your Facebook post, and on your Facebook, you say that you live in Plainville, Michigan. Is that correct? Plainwell, I'm sorry. Michigan.
Yes, it says I live in Plainville. I haven't changed it in years.
Judge, if I may approach.
Yes, this is my Facebook.
Okay. Judge, I'd submit that as the, and it says you live in Plainwell, Michigan. Is that correct?
It does.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you were planning a move to Plainwell, Michigan, weren't you?
No.
Okay. Judge, I'd submit that as the next marked exhibit.
Exhibit 3.
Judge, I think that's all.
Mr. Wamhoff, the Facebook post there, it says where you live. Have you lived there at any point?
Yeah, I lived there as a child. I lived there when Kaylee and I got married. Plainville was a frequent spot for me as growing up and throughout life.
So you and your wife, you said you and your wife lived there for a period of time?
We did. 335 12th Street, Plainville, Michigan.
Are you living there now?
No.
Okay. Now, you lied to your employer, correct?
I did.
And you were caught and you quit.
I did.
Was your daughter impacted in any way by that dishonesty?
No,
Were you visiting with your daughter during that period of time?
I was not.
Were you all following the 50-50 schedule around that time?
No, by that point, she had stopped visitations. The day that I was at the concert was actually the day I found out she had stopped visitations.
That's all, Your Honor.
How old are you, 24?
Yes, sir.
Step down. All right, Ms. Duke, you're the moving party. Do you have any other witnesses?
I do. I have Miss Berryman's mother.
Your witness.
Diane Jennings, Your Honor. Do you want me to get her? Diane Jennings? I can get her.
Face our clerk and raise your right hand.
If you would, please state your name for the record.
Diane Jennings.
And Miss Jennings, are you the mother of Miss Kaylee Berryman?
Yes.
And have you had the opportunity to see Miss Berryman as a mother?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the court how she does.
I think she's a fantastic mom.
You may need to speak up. Can you hear okay?
I can't hear anything she's saying.
Okay. I think that Kaylee is a fantastic mother.
Okay. And for a period of time after the minor child's birth, did Miss Berryman, and Mr. Wamhoff live with you?
Yes, they did.
Okay, tell the court a little bit about Miss Berryman taking care of the child versus Mr. Wamhoff taking care of the child.
Well, pretty much from the day that the baby came home, I would say Kaylee was the primary caregiver. She took care of the baby.
Had she had major surgery as a result of having the child?
Yes.
Okay.
She had several, over 100 stitches.
And where was Mr. Wamhoff for taking care of her and taking care of the baby? Was he there to help, or did he absent himself?
There were several occasions where Kaylee would show up at my bedroom in the middle of the night because she wasn't able to get Mr. Wamhoff to get up and make a bottle or change a diaper.
Did you witness his laziness with the child?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you hear him say anything about not wanting to change the child's diaper?
The only comment that I heard him say in regard to that was that he could understand why a man wouldn't want to change a baby girl's diaper, to the effect of it would only take the slip of a finger and a guy's life could be ruined.
Okay, so he said that.
Yes.
You didn't hear his stepfather or his father or anybody else make that comment. He said that.
No, he was standing in front of the dressing table, the changing table, changing his daughter when he made that comment.
Okay. And from that point on, was he changing her regularly, or did he defer to Miss Berryman to change that child?
Most of the time, Kaylee was changing diapers unless she specifically asked him to change the diaper.
Were you at the birthday party?
Yes.
Did you witness Mr. Wamhoff and his girlfriend come into the parking lot at the birthday party? Yes. Can you describe to the court what you witnessed?
The music was loud when they pulled into the parking lot. Jeremiah got out and came around, opened up Malin's door, and proceeded to get her out of the car seat. He apologized because she had food all over the front of her. He said they went through the Zaxby's drive-through on the way there to get her something to eat.
Okay. And was the child in a rear-facing car seat at the time?
Yes.
Were there any mirrors, rear-view mirrors, where he would be able to lay eyes on that child while she was eating?
I mean, he had a rearview mirror in his windshield.
Okay, but were there any mirrors that reflected onto the child so he could watch her eat?
I did not see any.
Was the music, could you really hear him talking, or was the music too loud?
I could hear him talking.
Okay.
He was standing on the same side of the car as I was.
Who provided for the minor child when the minor child was in your home with Ms. Berryman and Mr. Walmhoff?
My husband and I.
Okay. Did Mr. Walmhoff buy milk for the child or diapers or anything that you can recall?
No.
So if he testified today that he bought formula, I think he said several times, would that be inaccurate?
That would definitely be inaccurate.
Now, when you were at the birthday party, did you hear anything about what the child had been playing with at the father's house? Did you hear him make any offhanded comments about his girlfriend?
Absolutely.
Tell the court what you heard him say.
When he first walked in, out in the area where people get bowling balls, there was a group of people standing there, and the conversation had come up because he had said he was surprised that Malin hadn't tried to grab Kaylee's nose piercing yet. He stated that earlier that morning, Corey, his girlfriend, wasn't wearing a bra and was playing with her nipple piercing.
Did that give you concern?
Absolutely.
Did he think it was funny?
Yes.
If he denied having said that, would that have been a lie?
Yes.
Have you been party to any conversations regarding Mr. Wamhoff taking this child to Michigan and not returning?
Not personally.
Okay. Has Ms. Berryman relayed to you that concern?
Yes.
To your knowledge, has Mr. Wamhoff bought his girlfriend a dog?
That was what I understood, yes.
Has he supported this child at all until approximately March of this year?
No.
Did Mr. Wamhoff cancel Ms. Berryman on insurance, health insurance?
Yes.
Have you heard Mr. Wamhoff be disrespectful with Ms. Berryman?
Yes.
Tell the court a little bit about that.
There's just been times when there's been some disparaging remarks made, kind of in a sarcastic, humorous kind of way.
Did you hear him refer to her surgery site as ground beef?
I didn't hear that personally, no.
Okay. Did Ms. Berryman report that to you?
She did. She was very upset about that.
Are you concerned for the child? To strike that, Your Honor. Was Mr. Wamhoff very secretive about his financial situation?
Yes.
Okay. Did Ms. Berryman ever know, or did you ever know how much he was making?
No.
Did she ever have access to his accounts?
Never.
Okay. Judge, if I may have just one moment, I'm almost done. While Miss Berryman was living with you, did she even have to make application for WIC to get some of her milk, some of her formula paid for?
Yes.
That's all.
Manager Cross?
It's Diane Jennings, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Ms. Jennings, when did your son-in-law and your daughter live with you? When was that?
They moved in with me October 3rd, I believe it was October 31st, the same year that Malin was born.
Forgive me, but that was
21.
2021. And how long did they live with you?
They both lived with me until, I believe, the middle of May of 2022.
Okay. And were there occasions when they left because there was some disagreement that had occurred in your home?
The only time I'm aware of that somebody left was they had decided to separate and get a divorce. And my daughter decided to go out and stay with my mother-in-law because Jeremiah felt like he didn't have any place to go and she didn't want him to not have some place to go.
So he stayed in your home
Yes.
and your daughter left.
Yes.
Had you and your daughter had any sort of an argument?
No.
Do you recall any significant argument with your daughter during this time period?
I do not.
Have you met your daughter's boyfriend?
Yes, I have.
And what is his name?
Colin.
Colin. And you're aware that after they separated, your daughter and her husband began to do a 50-50 essentially?
Yes.
Initially, it was 2-3-2, and then it morphed into a week on, week off type of schedule?
I don't remember the 2-3-2. I remember the week on, week off.
You remember the week on, week off?
Yeah.
And then it stopped after her birthday party.
Yes.
And do you recall why?
Because Kaylee was concerned about Malin's safety and what was going on when he had her. She also was not aware of where the girlfriend lived and where exactly Malin was going to be during those visits.
Are you aware that your son-in-law has not seen your granddaughter since that day?
I'm
Since
aware
in
he hasn't
person?
seen her in person, yeah.
How would you like it if you didn't get to see your granddaughter for 3.5 months?
I wouldn't care for it.
You wouldn't like it, would you?
I wouldn't, but I would also want her to be safe and I would want to know where she was.
Are you aware that before today, your son-in-law didn't know who the child's babysitter was?
I am not aware of that.
Are you aware that before today, your son-in-law did not know that your daughter was living with someone who she had previously had an inappropriate texting relationship with?
That's inaccurate.
What's inaccurate?
That he was unaware that she was roommates. He has been aware of who Kaylee's roommate was from the day Kaylee moved in there.
Were you aware of the inappropriate texting that your daughter had done with that gentleman?
Prior to them moving in, yes, I was aware of that.
What, to your knowledge, what are you aware of?
I'm just aware that they were having a texting relationship back and forth.
Are you aware that that relationship included videos that she was sending to him?
I'm aware of a video because Jeremiah showed it to me after he found it on her phone.
Are you aware that there's more than one? You obviously love your daughter.
Absolutely.
You would do anything for her,
Who wouldn't? Absolutely.
including coming into this court and conveniently corroborating things that she has testified to that are false.
No, I wouldn't.
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Who else witnessed this conversation at the bowling alley?
There were several people standing there. I don't know
Who are
else.
they?
Well, my daughter was standing there.
Who else?
My mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, who is mentally retarded.
Is there anyone that doesn't have some interest in the outcome of this case who overheard these conversations?
There were people standing there that were complete strangers that I don't know.
Okay.
He definitely had an audience.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect.
Are you aware that your daughter had told him that Deanna's mom was watching the child?
Yes.
Okay. It wasn't any secret, was it, who was keeping the child?
No, and to my knowledge, she was never really asked who was keeping the child.
And Mr. Wamhoff didn't lodge any objections with you about who was watching the child. Okay. But he would come and try to... His testimony was you had... sorry, take that back, Judge. Did you have a decent relationship with Mr. Wamhoff?
I did,
Okay. And at what point did that sour?
at the birthday party.
Okay. After the statements that were made?
Yes.
Okay. And after he brought your grandchild there with music blaring and food all over?
Yes.
Were you concerned for the child's safety at that point in time?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. And call your next witness.
That's our proof, Judge.
Sanders, do you have any other witnesses? You have any other witnesses?
I'm not going to call anyone else, Your Honor.
I wish to be heard in argument.
I'll waive if Mr. Sanders wants to waive.
Or I would like to briefly be heard. So,
Go for it. She was only waving if you were going to waive.
Yeah, that's correct.
she was.
I generally waive because judges have got their minds made up by now, but
It's true.
Judge, our position is simply that Mr. Wamhoff has come before this court. He is a liar. I mean, enough so that he would get his lawyer involved in lying to his employer about where he was and when he was on 2 different occasions, and he ended up having to quit to keep from being fired when he worked there. Testimony is undisputed, aside from Mr. Wamhoff, that he did in fact threaten the mother that he would take the child to Michigan and not return with the child. It's undisputed, aside from Mr. Wamhoff's position, that his girlfriend, the child was playing with his girlfriend's nipple rings, and he thought it was funny, and he thought he would tell everybody at the birthday party about it. There are things that have led Miss Berryman to have concerns about the child in the care of the father. There were also concerns about the father's home where he was living, specifically the heroin user that was there in that home at the time, and that definitely led to some of the apprehension Miss Berryman had. Now, Miss Berryman did keep FaceTime calls going, and at this point, we would ask that the parenting plan wherein the minor child would be with the father supervised or in Tennessee at all times be put into effect. And it is our position that neither party really at this point needs to have anybody of the opposite sex in or around this minor child. They need to be caring for the minor child on their own. Obviously, his girlfriend has issues with allowing the child to play with her nipple rings. The court heard that Mr. Walmhoff has done everything he can not to support this child, and that's frustrating for the mother. I understand that that does not make any difference about visitation, but he has failed to support this child, and we're asking for an arrearage judgment to be established also.
What we have here, I submit to the court, Ms. Berryman has completely, unilaterally alienated this child from her father for the last 3.5 months. Frankly, what she's done is akin to an effective kidnapping. Your Honor, we have a father who has not been allowed to see his child for absolutely no good reason. There's been absolutely no valid reason. I hearken the court back to the opening statements that were made. Mr. Walmhoff was an alcoholic. That was one of them. He has a drinking problem. Absolutely zero proof was presented to that. He's going to take the child to Michigan and stay there. No proof of that was submitted to the court. He's taken the child twice and returned the child twice. These parties were exercising a 50-50 schedule. Despite Ms. Berryman's inappropriate texting with her previous boyfriend, now roommate, my client has got a girlfriend. She now has a second boyfriend who spends the night with her at her house, where her ex-boyfriend now lives, who is also her roommate. Despite all of that, these parties attempted to, on their own, work out a schedule where they would each spend 50% of the time with this child, and that was working. There wasn't any issue that was presented of this child being put in any kind of harm's way during that time period. And then December the 4th comes, and for whatever reason, she unilaterally makes the decision that you're done seeing this child. Absolutely finished. Stops answering text, stops answering phone calls, nothing. So we did what we felt was appropriate in filing the motion and the temporary parenting plan proposal that we filed, which is effectively what the parties were doing prior to December. I would ask the court to start that immediately. In fact, I would ask the court to start the weekly schedule this coming weekend, but also say that Mr. Walmhoff would get the child immediately and that he would begin and have her the rest of this week and then the following week, and then the parties can begin the schedule. He has available babysitting. She has available babysitting. These parties don't live so far apart that they can't coordinate that. They were doing just fine. She's unreasonable. She is absolutely unreasonable. I think this court has plenty of cause to question her character, about the videos and the boyfriends and who this guy was and what he is now, and he's my roommate, but I was texting with him and sending him videos of myself doing various acts. She's unreasonable, and I think the court can see that, and I'm asking the court to adopt our parenting plan. The court can set current child support, we can address the arrears, but the parties are doing 50-50 for some period of time, and then he's paid her some support. I think the arrears are better for a final hearing setting, but the court has both of their incomes, and on a 50-50 basis, if the court decided to set child support, it could. That's, to us, not the most important thing. He just wants to see his child, and he wants to see her as quickly and as possible. They would have this court to give him supervised visitation. Again, it's outrageous that she would come before this court and ask for a father who has absolutely done nothing wrong to only be allowed to be around his daughter with another adult supervising him. I can't think of anything that would make me feel worse as a father than suddenly being told that I can't be around my daughter unless my mother is there, when I've done nothing to believe that that should be the case. So we're asking the court to adopt our proposed temporary parenting plan, Your Honor.
Both these parties are 24 years old. They act a lot younger than that. They act like children. raising children. You know, I take these cases very seriously, and I take this one very seriously. But I've sat here the better part of the day and listened to testimony about wrestling, whiskey, twerking, nipple rings, loud cars, and, you know, and Jelly Roll. And maybe you should contact Jelly Roll and give him that information, and maybe he'll come up with a country song that'll sound like that. This is ridiculous that we're even having to spend the better part of the day arguing about this. She wants to accuse him of being a bad father because of the fact that he has a girlfriend who apparently has nipple rings, and that there may have been some contact between her and that child, and yet she does this twerking video. I don't care about either one of those situations. The fact of the matter is, I believe she loves her daughter, and I believe she wants to protect her daughter, and she's more concerned about him taking off to Michigan, which is a legitimate concern, no offense to Michigan. He's concerned about the fact that, you know, she's got this, I don't really think he was concerned about it until they started smearing him, and then he wanted to say something back about her. So where we are is that neither of these parents is without fault. But I will tell you that the depriving by one parent of another parent's opportunity to have contact of any kind with a child is absolutely something that this court will not tolerate. And we're going to go through these factors that the court has to consider in designating a primary residential parent under 36-6106. The first is the strength, nature, and stability of the child's relationship with each parent, whether one parent's performed the majority of parenting responsibilities and the daily needs of the child. Clearly, it appears to me from the testimony that Ms. Berryman, Ms. Berryman has performed the majority of those that would favor her. Each parent's past or potential for future performance of parenting responsibilities, including the willingness and ability of each of the parents to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing child relationship between the child and both of the child's parents. She has done nothing but try to sever the relationship, in my opinion, with Mr. Waymoff, whatever, and I apologize for mispronouncing. Now, you know, that factor clearly favors the father. Refusal to attend a court-ordered parent education seminar, I don't have any evidence on that for either. Disposition of each parent to provide the child with food, clothing, medical care. She's been the one who's provided, she and her family have provided for this child's needs, what little he's paid. And I understand that he has some spare time back and forth, but that's not child support to speak of, and that therefore this factor favors the mother. The degree to which each parent has been a primary caregiver, and I find that to be the mother. The love and affection, emotional ties existing between each parent and the child. Both of them love this child, and I believe that they would probably not be here today fighting over it if they both didn't. The emotional needs and development of the child, developmental level of the child. I don't have anything other than the fact that the child is a very young child. As an aside, the younger the child is, the more there is a need for regular contact between the parents, because younger children have a shorter memory, in my opinion. The moral, physical, mental, and emotional fitness of each parent as it relates to the ability to parent the child. We can argue about whether that twerking video constituted a sexual relationship or whether she had a sexual relationship. Doesn't matter. She's got a boyfriend who spends the night now. He's got a girlfriend. 24-year-old young people don't seem to understand that the marital bonds that they entered into simply don't vanish, and that and when you come before me, I'm required to find that both of them are guilty of adultery, which is what I said earlier in the case, is I should probably just dismiss this case on that grounds alone and leave them to be unable to mess up two other people's lives by getting remarried. But under the circumstances, they are both guilty of adultery, and for that reason, I don't find that factor favors either one of them. They're both, and it's a negative factor for both of them. But that's the way they choose to live their life. One of them can, in my opinion, smear the other one with that kind of conduct without it also relating back to their own actions. Child's interaction in a relationship with siblings, other relatives, clearly her mother and I believe her mother to be a good person, and I think she cares for her grandchild, and she wants to try to take care of it. And I hope that today hasn't soured any more of the relationship she might have in the future with Mr. Wymoff, the father. The importance of continuity in a child's life and the length of time a child has lived in a stable, satisfactory environment. The parties separated and then had this week on, week off, which is okay with a child of this age. But then it got terminated by her unilaterally, which again, in my opinion, is a wrongful act on her part. I think she may think she was justified, but that child is as much his as it is hers. The importance of continuity in the child's life and could be argued both ways. So I find that that is a factor in favor of establishing a longer relationship, or rather a longer visitation, parenting time with the father. Evidence of physical or emotional abuse of this child, there's no evidence that this child has been abused in the father's care. You're going to find as you two grow, as this child grows, one of you is going to have a set of rules in your house, the other is going to have a different set of rules. One will have one bedtime, the other will have a different bedtime. One will have food. I hear this constantly in and out of this court where parents are fighting over things like that. Instead of the important things about education and health, they worry about little things that they can pick at each other about. Character and behavior of any other person who resides or frequents the home of the parent. Both of them have new relationships. Neither of them has produced for me to see and hear and observe that new person in this child's life. So therefore, that factor is irrelevant in the court's consideration. I don't have any evidence about either one of them being bad people or good people, other than the nipple rings. Each parent's employment schedule, and the court may make accommodations consistent with those schedules. They both work 45 hours a week, Monday through Friday. I don't find that favors either one. Any other factors deemed relevant by the court, and I find that the mother's unilateral depriving the father of contact with his child of any kind or nature is a factor that favors the father. But considering all of those factors and the needs of a child of this age and the length of time that it's been since the father has had the visitation, I find that the mother should be designated the primary residential parent on a temporary basis. Beginning Thursday afternoon, he will begin having his scheduled time that I'm going to give to you. He will have unsupervised visitation with this child in the state of Tennessee. He will not remove this child from the state of Tennessee, period, exclamation point, without a court order granting you that permission. You will exercise that visitation at your mother's home, not under her supervision, but that's where you say you live. That's where this child will be when you're there. I'm not saying your girlfriend can't be around, but if in fact she was playing with your girlfriend's nipple rings, don't let that happen. That is a first in all of my years. In any event, you will start your visitation at 6 p.m. on Thursday. That will continue until Saturday at noon. The child will go back to the mother at noon on Saturday. Then the following schedule will apply. He will have Thursday through Sunday at 6, Thursday at 6 through Sunday at 6 for the next, every other week for the next 30 days. And then following that, it will be expanded to a week on, week off to be exchanged on Sunday nights, which is, I think, when they were exercising together. The child will remain in the state of Tennessee at all times, absent a court order approving removal. He will ensure that there are no loud noises. I have a smartwatch that my children got me, and there are times when it goes off to tell me that a loud environment will damage my hearing after a certain point. She has a legitimate concern. It may not be loud to you, but to a little child, it's very loud. So keep that in mind when you have your child with you. If you carry the child in a car seat which is approved and it has a back facing backwards in the back seat like you're supposed to, make sure you have a mirror there. Don't feed the child when you're in the car driving. This will be a court order because she has a legitimate concern about the child choking. You know, that's not unreasonable. And in my opinion, at this point, we're going to calculate the child support based upon their respective incomes. The child support arrearage, I don't really have a way right now to he owes a child support arrearage, but we're going to have to find a way, maybe through discovery, you can determine what was paid, what should have been paid, and you can calculate an arrearage and present it to this court. But at this point, I don't think I have the evidence as to how much he paid and how much he owed that would essentially allow me to enter an order on that point. Based upon that, the decision-making will be joint. You cut each other off on your Facebook, so be it. I don't care about Facebook. But you've got to communicate. If he texts you about your child, answer him. Don't ignore him. If she texts you, answer her. Don't ignore her. It will be civil. There will be no negative, derogatory comments made, period, exclamation point, by anyone, including this new girlfriend or this new boyfriend. You don't talk about the other one in the presence of this child, even though she's too young to really understand it. Let's start that now. But the decisions will be made jointly, except that she's the primary residential parent, which means, if there's a major decision to be made, she's got to discuss it with you. Hopefully you all can arrive at an agreement. And then you can implement that decision. But if you can't, after discussion, not before, she will have the right to make that decision as the primary residential parent. We've got to have somebody to break the deadlock, and that's the way it's going to go. Anything that I have not addressed, Ms. Toombs and Mr. Sanders?
Thursday to Saturday on the first visit, every other week after that, Thursday to Sunday for the next 30 days.
The only reason I'm doing it that way is this weekend it's Easter, and he's going to get the child at least part of the weekend for Easter. He's got Good Friday and half the day Saturday. She'll have Easter Sunday with her. I assume she might have some plans. So.
And then after that, week on, week off with exchanges on Sunday night, correct? Okay.
And this is temporary. I mean, you want to be a good father, is that what you're telling me? And I'm giving you an opportunity to prove that you can do that. If you don't, we're going to have a track record. We're going to have a record. You claim that you've been deprived from it. She's had her reasons for it. I'm not holding it against her, but I'm telling her that won't happen again. If you have a problem with what he's doing, go through your lawyer, file something immediately. Don't just do it unilaterally, because that will get you in trouble. You understand that? My remedy for a violation of the order is to change the custody arrangement, suspend visitation, put people in jail. All of those are bad things to happen. You don't want to have that happen. If you both love your child, then hopefully you can set aside whatever you're going to. You both got other people in your life, so let's move on, and let's address the issue that's really important. And that's how you're going to have this child grow up, knowing that she's got two parents who love her, or two parents who hate each other's guts, and that's the way her life will be from here on. Hopefully it won't be the latter. Good luck to both of you.
Two questions. Transportation, who's picking up and those things. And then second, the court has said how it wanted us to use the incomes for child support, but the court has laid out what I call a temporary schedule for the next month or so, and then a more, are you talking about?
We're going to set the child support to begin immediately on the 50-50 schedule, even though he's going to owe child support for the period that he did not see the child. That's just the way it is. You owe support whether you're seeing the child or not. And so transportation would be the parties can agree to meet, or the party receiving the child will provide transportation. He'll pick the child up from her, she'll pick the child up from him. And they can agree to meet at a halfway point between here and Clarksville if that's what they want to do. It'll be equally shared.
That's all the questions I have.
That is the judgment of the court. Mr. Sanders, I don't care who draws it, but somebody's got to do it.
I'll take a stab at it, Your Honor. I'll send it to Ms. Dix for approval.
Christopher Wayne Claiborne versus Amy Lee Children.